and welcome to another episode of In Conversation. It's been a week since our last episode in which we just had a really honest conversation about the situation we find ourselves in, and a week has now passed and we're getting used to it, I think, what it means for us to live in a tier 3 lockdown, and particularly what that means for us with our Christian faith, and we hope that you are getting used to it as well. And so we wanted really to just pick up where we left off last week. Last week we kind of just got out all our frustrations and our anger, and we want to kind of set that aside for the moment and think a little bit more positively. If you watched last week's episode, then we ended it by saying, by encouraging you rather to look for the positive in each day, as a way of coping with the difficulties of the lockdown. And I want to read a quote to you to kick off this morning's episode, which comes from Sam Wells, who is the Vicar of St Martin in the Fields in London, in his book called Liturgy on the Edge. And he says, the challenge for us is to find ways to encourage and embed thankfulness in liturgy and in life from dawn and all through the day. When I first read that, the question that kind of popped to my mind is one that I asked at a Harvest Assembly, I think it was, a few years ago, which was, if you could only have the last thing you said thank you for, A, what would that be? And B, would you be able to live on just that one thing? Thankfulness is a really important thing and something we probably forget to embody in our lives, even though it's so easy for us to do. And so we wanted to think a little bit about that this morning, and also think about what our days look like really, and how we might be able to embed thankfulness, as Sam Wells said, into our daily rhythms.
It's really hard, I think, sometimes to be thankful for anything. We can kind of get up, we can experience our day, everything can go wrong, and we just kind of maybe don't say thanks. Something I learnt very on in ministry is actually ministry is a lot easier in a church when you say thank you to people. And so thank you for doing the Bible reading, thank you for just showing up, thank you for giving each week, thank you just for saying hello. Being thanked for doing something seems to give people a new energy and a new enthusiasm, and they therefore want to keep doing it. Yeah. And so actually, thankfulness seems to have some sort of power. I guess thankfulness must have some sort of spiritual power to encourage, to equip, to just keep people going.
Yeah, and I think that's why we wanted to kind of start with that this morning, really, because actually, you know, airing our frustrations and our struggles, there is a place for that, but there is also a place for this too. We need to lift our head a little, if you like. We need to look up to the places and the people that we are thankful for, and to remember those daily.
I guess thankfulness starts, I'm reminded of the Eucharistic prayer, certainly it's Michael's. Sorry, there's fireworks going on outside, and I thought someone was trying to break in. So sorry for that slight pause where you kind of didn't know what was going on. I'm reminded of the Eucharistic prayer when I think of thankfulness. Certainly at St Michael's, Jesus takes the bread and he gives thanks to the Father, at which point I kind of hold it up and I look upwards, I look to heaven, because at that moment I'm thanking God that Jesus died upon the cross for me. And then Jesus takes the cup, gives him thanks, and this is my blood which is shed for you. Thankfulness starts merely by the fact of God created us, he breathed life into us, and then he chased after us year after year, century after century, to the point where Jesus dies upon the cross that we might be reunited with God in heaven. And so even when life's a bit dark or grey or miserable or whatever, actually Jesus has still died for us. Jesus has still experienced death for us. Jesus has still risen from death back to life and ascended to the Father and gone to the place where we are invited to go one day. And surely that's the starting point for thankfulness.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just in something that you said, actually we can start at the very beginning of the day by just saying, thank you that we are up. My dad always kind of makes a bit of a joke of it, really, in that he kind of gets up and he says to my mum, I'm here for another day. And I think in his eyes he's here another day to annoy her. But actually there's something in that about us waking up and being thankful for the gift of life itself.
He's not going to thank you for that illustration.
Who cares?
So we've got to develop some sort of habit or attitude that encourages us to look for things we can give thanks for, even when it appears like there's nothing to be thankful for. Do you have any kind of coping mechanisms or habits or even rhythms of a day that help you build thankfulness into it?
Yeah, I think there are probably kind of the spiritual moments of the day, those times when I actually sit down and actively pray. And usually that's at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And I particularly follow the Church of England's daily prayer, which you can get on your phone, which just sets out some simple prayers that you can say. And I've been amazed, actually. I'm amazed every time, but actually there's been a fresh sense recently that the prayers have been really relevant either to me personally or to where we're at right now, and I find that really refreshing and, as you say, kind of re-energizing. But also I think just when I'm out and about, kind of when I meet people, or I did before lockdown, when I'm kind of out walking or on my way somewhere, I used to actually love my drive to Bowden, kind of 20 minutes in the car, and I'd often have Christian music playing on the radio, and that was just a real time for me to offer the day to God, and to kind of see where that would take me, really, and then I do it again kind of on the way home, and I don't really get that as much when I drive to Stockport now, because it's kind of 10 minutes most, but there are opportunities like that, I think, when we're either walking somewhere or driving somewhere, that we can stop and notice what's around us, and simply just say thank you for those things.
Yeah, Jess has gone for the holy thing. Obviously we're not allowed to spend time with family at the moment, and we've got a 1-year-old who's growing up far too quickly. So we actually take quite a lot of pictures on our phones, that we then send to family on our WhatsApp groups. Product placement here, other messaging providers are available. But also they send us pictures of things they're doing, of how their families are doing. And so actually just something that's helpful to do, and I think I probably do it every day, is just scroll through the photos that have been saved to my phone. And some of them I've taken, others, in fact more than the ones I take, have been taken by family and friends. And it brings me joy, which I guess leads me to a place of thanks, of looking at pictures of Samuel and Samuel playing with Jess or with me, looking at pictures of families that have been sent or things family have been doing, looking at some of the funny pictures that I get sent by colleagues at work, of all shapes and varieties, actually. And it just makes me thankful for my family, even though I haven't seen them in many weeks or months. It makes me thankful for the people I work with and for their sense of humour. It makes me thank you for my family that I do live with and see every day. And I think just simple things like that, we can maybe push back and say, oh, well, that's not very holy, or that's not very good. But actually, family is important. And so I would say actually looking for those people that bring us joy and finding ways to interact with them. And if it's not on the phone or in person, finding new ways to do that. But also looking back over the day, and for me, photographs is quite a key thing for that. Yeah,
and I think coming back to something you said at the beginning, in that idea of remembering to say thank you to people, we wrote thank you cards last week for Samuel's first birthday for the gifts that people had given to him.
Made me realise I don't actually write with my hand very much anymore.
No, and actually as we were doing it, I kind of thought, who does this anymore? You kind of could just send a text or a kind of round robin email, but actually there was something quite personal in the kind of unique handwritten letters that were sent to individual people or to families that had very kindly sent Samuel gifts. And we're now starting to get those messages of thank you back for sending those thank you cards, and though you can kind of end up on a spiral really of saying thank you all the time, I think there was just something in that very act itself that consciously reminded me of the need to say thank you, and not just kind of a simple text or an email, but taking the time to do it in a kind of personal and individual way.
And if you read through the letters of the New Testament, certainly the ones from Paul, they all have a particular model, and Paul always starts with thanksgiving. He thanks the Lord for the people he's writing to, and he thanks them for their encouragement to him in faith. Now, I wish we had the letters that the church sent to Paul to then make him write to them to see what they were saying. But whether he's about to tell the church off or whether he's about to say you're doing a really good job, he always starts by thanking God for them and thanking them for their encouragement to him in his ministry. And I find that really positive and encouraging, and that actually we should thank God for those people around us. So even just when we're kind of about to call someone, or we bumped into someone in the street and then jumped back 2 meters, just taking a moment to say, actually, that was worth it. Thank you, Jesus, for that. And thank you, and actually telling people that they encourage one another in faith. So we've had a number of emails and a number of messages in the past 7 days just saying thank you for our honest conversation last night. And actually, for me, that was quite affirming, because we went out on quite a limb and we were quite vulnerable with what we said. And to get a thank you back was appreciation, but it was also a sign that we did the right thing.
Yeah.
And actually, as Christians, as people of faith, we do need that regularly, that encouragement that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to think in those terms, isn't it? Because I think we can sometimes think that we have to do something in order to be thanked, that actually the thanksgiving is the reason, the motive behind why we do things, when actually lots of the time we just do them because either that's what we do, or because as Christians that's what we feel called to do. But that link, I guess, between thankfulness and encouragement is really important, and perhaps sometimes they merge into one. Yeah.
So as life changes again, or has changed again, and you're looking at your routine, I'd really encourage you, when you get up, whether you're complaining the house is cold, or you've got up too early because your child has woken you up too early, or you're complaining because your husband hasn't got up and it's been 3 hours or whatever, guess which household I'm talking about, just take a moment to thank the Lord for this new day, because he's made a new day, the sun has risen, and then
you see that if you got up early.
Yeah, I used to see it on a Sunday, but thankfully the clocks have gone back. And then throughout the day, take opportunities to engage with other people, because I think actually having a routine of engaging other people, humans, I was telling someone this who was quite upset last week, we're not created to be alone, we're not created to be isolated. Humans were created by God in his image, and therefore we were created to be in relationship, and we're not created to be alone. So actually seeking out some form of communication with someone else is really important, and so then you can be thankful for that contact, for that relationship, however it worked. So we've got prayer, we've got people. Take time to read God's word and be reminded of what he has done for you, because it's so easy to forget, and you kind of know it, and you know it all the time, but occasionally I just kind of read something and just am blown away by the awesomeness and greatness of who God is and what He's done for me, and to kind of have that semi-regularly is a real encouragement, and I'm thankful for that. But then take time to review your day. Sometimes we go from day to day to day, and we never look back. A lot of people keep diaries. I've certainly tried keeping a diary, and I maybe do a week and then I forget, and then I don't catch up, and the whole kind of thing goes to pot. But take time to review your day. What was good about that day? And don't move on until you've found at least 2 good points about the day, even if that's you woke up.
Yeah, we used to do highs and lows, didn't we?
We did.
Before we went to bed. Maybe we should kind of reinstate that, really. But something that was really good about the day.
In fact, it was always 3 good things about the day.
Really?
You had to come up with 3 good things about the day, so that they outweighed the negatives, the lows.
That may be stretching it, but yeah. So that might be something to do, and it's really simple and really easy, and it kind of just provides a bit of alternative conversation, really, as well. But actually, not just kind of stopping at the end of the day to review it, but in the moment, get out there, and when you're doing stuff, actually, when you go from thing to thing, or you look in your diary for the week of what's going on, actually stop and just say thank you for those things. Or if you're out for a walk, thanking God for the amazingness that is His creation. And there's just really simple everyday things that we can say thank you for. And
that thankfulness, coming back to what I said at the beginning, so we're kind of doing full circle, I think there is a spiritual power in thankfulness, and thankfulness creates positivity, which I would say is joy, which is a gift of the Spirit, and we need as much joy as we can get, not just in lockdown, but even when life goes back to normal, we need joy, and the joy of the Lord is our strength, the psalmist says, and thankfulness leads us to a place of joy. So if you're feeling a bit down, if you're feeling a bit worried, if you're a bit anxious, look for those things that you're thankful for. Let them lead you to a place of joy, and allow that joy to strengthen you, because the psalmist tells us the joy of the Lord is our strength, and in Him we can trust.
I think it's just amazing when you kind of then look back after a few weeks or months even. Actually, I've heard us say several times, the gift of lockdown has been, finish that sentence. And I would never have thought I would ever kind of think about being locked down as a gift, and the restrictions we've had placed on us as a gift. But actually there's something in that, seeing the positive, experiencing the joy, saying thank you, that lifts us just enough to kind of not just kind of take the bad of all of this, but actually just to see the goodness that comes out of it as well.
Great. So I hope that has been an encouragement for you. We're not quite sure where we're going for the next few weeks. We've got some ideas for December when we're into Advent, and we're hopefully going to take a quiet day at some point to really flesh those plans out. But if you've got some of the big questions of life that you would just like us to share our thoughts on, please don't be afraid to email them to me, callum.piper@bramwell.church, or put them through the letterbox at the vicarage. And please don't be embarrassed to share those questions, because if you've got a big question, or even what you think is a really simple question but you've never managed to get the answer, I can guarantee there are other people that will have those questions too. We may not give the perfect answer, but we would be happy to try and answer them. And so if we get a load of questions by next week, we might throw a few questions together and try and answer them. Or if we get one big topic, we'll try our best to answer it from our perspective with our limited knowledge. But we're not quite sure what the next few weeks.
We'd be certainly thankful for the inspiration.
We certainly would. So do drop us a line. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about, because that might be easier than us trying to work out what we're going to talk about next. I
think that's it for this week. So we will see you next week with whatever is in store.
Take care. God bless.